And welcome back to Horns Up. I'm your host, Frank. And today, listen, as we continue the celebration, we're about 8 days after the Rams winning Super Bowl 56. Lots of things to really talk about as the offseason approaches now, but the celebration continues for us Rams fans here. And it's interesting, as I was cruising YouTube today and I saw, our good old friend Skip Bayless over at ESPN in his own podcast talking about how the Rams have the worst fan base in the NFL. And judging by some of the events we saw this year, like SoFi being taken over by 49ers fans and by other teams' fans in that respect, I think a lot of people can understand why Skip Bayless will make that argument in many respects. You know what? It's hard to see that as a Rams fan myself, but we have to understand that this Rams organization has been through somewhat of a big turmoil over the past 35 years. Unless we contextually understand what has happened to the Rams, you can't really understand what's happened to the Rams fan base. And as somebody who goes all the way back to the 1979 season, I can fill you in a lot of this. I was the guy at the very last game ever played at Anaheim Stadium. I got the ticket stuff back here somewhere. I should have pulled it out. Maybe one day I'll pull it out. I remember what that day was like. When I believe it was one of the Zendejas brothers missed that field goal against the Washington Redskins at the very end of the game, and we all went home. And after that, the team disappeared, went off to St. Louis. I think, in regards to Skip Bayless, he makes the case that the Ram fan base is the worst fan base that there is. I'm going to make the case right here that the Ram fan base, while small, is the best fan base in the NFL. And no, we don't need to provide loyalty like the Eagles fans who got a judge and jury and executioner right there at the stadium during the games because we're a bunch of drunken fools. We're a little bit more polite in Rams land. Okay, we've always been that way, by the way. If you ever went to a Rams game out in Anaheim Stadium, when I used to be there, one of the best atmospheres that there was. Pleasant, clean, safe. You didn't worry about some drunken fool really, causing problems while you're there watching the game with your kids. But Skip wouldn't know that. He's a Cowboys fan. A Cowboys organization, ironically enough, has been pretty pathetic for 30 years now. But I'll say that for another time. Okay, listen, Skip, I'm going to make the case right here, right now, why the Rams fan base is the best in the NFL. Let's go straight to the tape here. I want to put this into context to what Skip Bayless is talking about here. And we'll go here.
What I'm talking about with the Rams is actually lack of passion. Rams fans, lowest passion in sports to me, because most Rams fans I've known over the many years, I was here in the 70s for 3 years at the LA Times. Most Rams fans I know were Dodgers fans first and foremost, and maybe Lakers fans second, and Rams fans third. I could throw the Kings in there somewhere, but that's sort of the pecking order. And obviously, in LA, there's just so much else to do. The ocean is 5 minutes from SoFi Stadium. The mountains are about 2 hours from SoFi. I'm talking about snow skiing mountains, 2 hours away. And on Super Bowl Sunday, it was almost 90 degrees in LA. There's just so much else to do. So as I've said about Rams fans, they mostly, at games I covered back in the 70s, back in the day when they were winning the division every year, they won 5 straight divisions under Chuck Knox. They mostly at the old Coliseum sat on their hands. They waited for the team to inspire them instead of them sparking and igniting the team. They wait to be entertained because this is the capital of entertainment. You entertain the Rams fans and then they'll cheer for you. Well, to me, that makes them the worst in passion, because it's, instead of die hard, it's die easy, right? And speaking of die hard, here in Hollywood, one of my all-time favorite movies is Die Hard, great Christmas movie. That's another discussion for another day. But every morning on the way to work to the Fox lot, I get to pass Nakatomi Tower on Avenue of the Stars. It's Hollywood, baby. It's everywhere. I'm in Hollywood heaven. So the Rams are somewhere down the pecking order in entertainment value. Yeah, they just won the Super Bowl, so everybody's on board. Yay. Brentwood Country Club is sending out a big email on Sunday night. Congratulations, Matthew Stafford. I loved it. I hope to get to play golf with Matt someday. And God bless all you Rams fans out there. I hope you're back next year if they start off 3-7.
And there you go. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Skip Bayless making the argument Rams fans are the worst in the NFL. So let's talk about this for a second, because I think we need to put a lot of things into context, into some of the problems the Rams organization has gone through over the past 35 years, particularly with an ownership situation, well, that was a little bit different, strange, and a little bit strained in a lot of respects. I talked about this before. The Rams brought the first professional championship to Los Angeles in 1951 when they won an NFL title. It was before the Lakers won a title, it was before the Dodgers won a title, before the Kings won a title, before anybody else. The Rams were the first professional title in the city of Los Angeles. But it was after that that the organization really became the team that struggled to really win that last game, especially in the Super Bowl era. He rightly talks about how the Rams had some great teams throughout all of the 70s. He had strong teams in the 60s, he had strong teams in the 50s, he had some down years, don't get me wrong, but strong teams all across the board. I think what they won like 7 straight division titles in the 70s. And ironically enough, when they got to Super Bowl 14 in that 1979 season and in January of 1980, that was actually on the tail end of all those division titles. And it was actually one of the weaker teams, weaker Rams teams. The previous 6 years where they had won the division title, those were stronger teams. And here we go now with Vince Ferragamo, who takes over after taking, after Pat Hayden got hurt. He's kind of the miracle Hollywood boy, the handsome, good-looking kid who gets him to Super Bowl 14. And of course, it was a close game. They hung in there with the powerhouse dynasty, the Pittsburgh Steelers. He throws the interception late in the fourth quarter. Rams hung in there, but once again, the Rams came up just short. So you essentially have about from 51 all the way to, well, until they leave LA per se, because I'm going to talk about that. That's important here. They left in 94. You got there for over 40 years of a team that's good, an organization that's solid, but can never win the big game. And that matters in Los Angeles because you have to win. In that same time span, when Dr. Jerry Buss took over the Lakers, we began to see a style of sort of a managerial style of a Lakers organization that was, again, it was showtime. It was, we're going to go out there, we're going to put a product out there, we're going to entertain you, we're going to win a lot of ball games, I'm going to invest in this team, I'll break the cap every time I have to in order to win titles, right? In the early 80s, we also went through Fernando Mania as well, too, with the Dodgers. And later on, Kirk Gibson hitting a home run in the 88 season. The Dodgers were winning. The Lakers were winning, right? Hockey was it was sluggish in LA until they get to the 2000s. They win a couple of titles, but there were some hardcore Kings fans as well, too. But for the Rams, when Georgia Frontier took over the team in the late 70s, and she decided to move the team from Los Angeles to Anaheim, that started a cultural division with the Rams that they would never recover from. Were they still the Los Angeles Rams when they went from the Coliseum over to the Anaheim Stadium? Yes, they were. But as we all know, for us Los Angelenos, right? I was born and raised there. I no longer live in Los Angeles now, but I was born and raised there and understand the culture, at least understood the culture at that time very well. That Iron Curtain between Orange County and Los Angeles, there was real cultural differences there. And when the team went down to Anaheim Stadium, and we could talk about the reasons why they left, right? The Coliseum has always been kind of, it's a big stadium. A lot of people argue that Georgia moved the team down to Anaheim because it was a smaller stadium. Remember back in those days, you had to sell out by Thursday before the game in order to get it on TV. Coliseum was just too darn big, right? The city of Los Angeles didn't want to put up or help out with the stadium at that time. Georgia didn't want to build her own stadium. So there were stadium issues. She moves them down to Orange County, and there begins the cultural divide. But there was something else that happened. The Raiders moved into town in the early 80s. And within I believe it was the second year there, they won the Super Bowl. The combination of the Rams moving to Orange County and creating sort of this diversity culture clash, right? essentially making the Rams the team of Orange County. It was I guess the middle class, upper middle class team versus, the rough and rugged and tough Raiders with their image, and then winning the Super Bowl, almost immediately getting here and stealing the heart of the city, really doomed the Rams for many years to come in a lot of different ways. Because what you have to remember, after 1983, LA wasn't Rams town anymore. It was Raiders town. That's a fact. That's a fact. And while the Rams hung on until the mid-90s, Rams had good teams, don't get me wrong, but they never were put over the top. So you effectively have about a 12, 13-year period from the time they moved from the Coliseum to Orange County that this division of fans begins to happen culturally in Los Angeles. The Raiders win the Super Bowl. They steal the heart of the city. And with that, the Ram fan base begins to dwindle. And then, of course, you have the 1995 move to St. Louis, which is another 22 years that they're gone out of the city of Los Angeles and really cementing them as they've come and gone. They're not our team anymore, effectively. The Rams have been out of Los Angeles for 35 years. Generations of kids growing up to really follow other teams, right? That's why in LA, when you see, for example, the 49ers fans pack SoFi, a lot of those fans are not just from San Francisco. They're LA residents. They're LA residents that when you don't have a team in your city for effectively, let's call it 22 years, just the time during St. Louis, they start liking other teams. They still want to like football, right? So they're putting on 49ers jerseys. They're putting on Packers jerseys. They're putting on Cowboys jerseys because those are the teams that were winning in the 90s. Remember, the Rams are gone. That fan base was dying. It goes to St. Louis. There's some success early on. They win a Super Bowl over there. And the irony of it all, I remember when the Rams won that 1999 Super Bowl. I remember specifically an article in the Orange County Register. And I forgot who the name of the writer was. But in essence, the title of the article was something like, the Rams won Super Bowl, but they're not our team anymore. It was an acknowledgement that the Rams were gone. These were the St. Louis Rams. They were not our Rams anymore down here in Southern California. And I remember reading that article and how painful it was because I started following the Rams myself. See, for myself, I'll speak for myself. When they left Los Angeles or Anaheim, whatever you want to call it there, in 94, they start the first season, I believe, in 95. I tried to not associate myself with the team. I tried to follow other teams. But see, here's the key to football. I think you have to have some kind of connection with that team. I tried to like other teams in the mid-90s, right? But I'm not from a place like Arizona. I'm not from, Houston or New York or Boston or whatever it may be. I had no connection to other teams that I tried to like. It was natural eventually, as much as I was angry that Georgia moved the team to St. Louis, for me to continue simply like the Rams because there was a connection, there was a history. I went to Rams games at Anaheim Stadium. I went to the very last game there, right? And I think in that sense, you got a situation here where Los Angelenos, they're just gone. But for those of us Ram fans that stayed loyal to the team all through St. Louis, that's the kind of fan base you want. You got to remember, this cultural phenomenon when the Raiders came into town, and I still remember to this day, I remember the faces, I remember the names of the people because the Raiders won the Super Bowl in 83. There one time were Rams fans and said, you know what? Now, Ram fans always come sure I'm going to be a Raiders fan. We call those front runners back in the days. And there was a lot of Los Angelenos that dumped the Rams in order to support the Super Bowl winning team. That with the fact that they would complain about how they moved down to Orange County, arguments like, oh, they weren't good enough for us. And Giorgio just went down with the richy, yuppity, uppity, white folks down in Orange County. Those cultural divisions really existed. But for those of us that believe in loyalty in our organization, a lot of us stayed with the Rams through all those years, through the years in Anaheim, through the years where they started losing, through the years in St. Louis, begrudgingly so. And then we had to watch that Super Bowl. They finally won that Super Bowl. But it wasn't the Los Angeles Rams. It was the St. Louis Rams. It was bittersweet. I'll be the first to tell you. But many of us, you know what? Like I said, there's no connection to any other team. I had no connection to the Raiders. First of all, I never liked the thuggish image. And the irony of it all is those Raiders fans now are not even Raiders fans anymore. I call those Traitors fans, traitors, little T with the Raiders name, right? Just proceed the Raiders, the little T, traitors fans. And traitors fans are those Los Angelenos that decided to dump the Rams, in favor of the Raiders, because the Raiders finally won that Super Bowl. And look where we're at now for the past 35 years. The Raiders are one of the most pathetic organizations in the NFL. They've been doing nothing but losing for 35 years. I don't even count that Super Bowl they got to in 2003 because they got blown the F out by the Tampa Bay Bucks, okay? It was a year where the AFC was weak and they got absolutely demolished and destroyed. And the commitment to excellence by the Raiders organization has become a commitment to losing, a commitment to being the worst organization in the NFL, right? Now, Raiders fans, I give them credit. There's lots of, again, organizational turmoil, right? There's lots of, moving around from Oakland to Los Angeles, Los Angeles to Oakland, now Oakland to Las Vegas. That wears on the Rams. But the Raiders have always had more of an international brand than the Rams. Rams have always been associated with the Hollywood, the glitz, the glamour kind of a thing, right? But for the Raiders, they have that international following. Except the problem is they've been cursed for 35 years. And in that process, Los Angelenos, again, being front runners, really flippant while the Lakers are winning titles, the Dodgers are winning titles, the Rams were struggling in the 80s. And then even toward the end of the 80s, the Raiders started struggling. And once the Raiders moved back to Oakland, did those Los Angelenos stick with the Raiders? No, not really, right? They Los Angelenos purposely try not to find a connection. All they want is a winner. That's why in this clip, when Skip talks about, well, the Lakers are number one Lakers, well, of course they were. Lakers were a dynasty in the 80s. And Dr. Jerry Buss did everything he had to do in order to put a championship team out. Georgia was much more conservative. And we had to deal with the criticisms of Georgia Frontier in the 80s, right? Particularly with her not wanting to pay players, right? Not extending the marquee players of our team. Just think of Eric Dickerson, the face of the franchise, how she didn't want to re-sign him to the big bucks, trade him away for a bunch of picks that never really came to fruition. Never really ventured into free agency, never really moved up and down the draft board, kind of like what we see now, trying to build a championship team. It was a method of, okay, we draft, we stay in our place, and we coach our players up. And in some respects, it worked. It was a successful organization. They got to the playoffs almost every year throughout the 70s and the 80s, right? They got to a couple of conference title games back in 85 against the Bears, 89 against the 49ers, but coming up just short. But there was never this sort of exuberant effort to bring a title, a Super Bowl title, to the Rams organization and to Los Angeles. And it's quite different than what we see now, the polar opposite. And the beauty and the wonder, which is, owner Stan Kroenke now, that wanted that title. And he went all in to go get that title. We talk about McVay. We talk about Les Snead. And God bless them. They're great minds. But this doesn't happen without an owner that wants to win. This is Stan Kroenke that put this together. Unlike Georgia in the 80s, who didn't want to win. Sure, she does a great job, has a miracle season in 99, right? Hires Dick Vermeil, which was a great hire. He was a good coach, right? You find Kurt Warner, you draft Holt, you got Bruce from Los Angeles. So you have a magical run. So Georgia got that Super Bowl. She did. But her heart wasn't here half the time. And the things that needed to be done drove a lot of the fan base away and into the arms of the Raiders. And that's where the Ram base actually suffered for many years, was because of the Raiders, and the Raiders being, again, Los Angeles's team. And it's interesting because, again, those Raiders fans are now wearing Packers jerseys, Cowboys jerseys, 49ers jerseys, ironically enough, because like I said earlier, there's no loyalty. But for those few of us that stayed loyal through the thick, through the thin, through the Georgia years, through the move down to Anaheim, through the move down all the way into St. Louis, and now they're back home where they've always should have been, and thank you, Stan Kroenke, for that. I mean, I think, Skip, what you're confusing is the size of our fan base versus the passion. If you're telling me we have to be a bunch of drunken brawlers like Philadelphia fans, sorry, that's not me. That makes me a bad fan because I'm not thrown in jail for my Rams team. I'm sorry. And the idea that you say there that, well, the Ram fans in the 70s just sat and just clapped. Listen, that's subjective. That's subjective, okay? I remember the watermelon heads in the back of the end zone in Los Angeles. I remember being the last game in Anaheim Stadium and the passion, the hurt, the pain that Rams fans felt. And yet through this all through these betrayals of going off to St. Louis, right? We stuck with this team. Our fan base may be small, Skip. It may be the smallest in the NFL. There I would agree with you. But we're just as passionate as any other team. We just need time to rebuild this thing because of owner instability and these moves that we have had over the years. Listen, this isn't Kansas City. This isn't Green Bay, right? The loyalty there, it will always stay rock solid precisely because of what those cultures are. But what is California? Let's be honest here. Okay, you want to blame California or Los Angelenos, and there's some blame to go around. But Los Angeles in and of itself, unlike Green Bay, unlike Pittsburgh, unlike Kansas City, LA is a transient town. People travel from all over the world to make it big in Los Angeles. I want to be an actor. I want to be a movie star. I want to be a porn star, whatever it is. California is the land of opportunity. Well, it was at one time, but that's how a lot of people come to California. The weather is beautiful. And what happens oftentimes with these people that are transients, that are moving in from other parts of the country, they bring their values with them, including the love of their home teams. If you got a transient coming to LA to be a movie star, right, coming from Kansas City, are they going to become Ram fans, or are they going to support the Chiefs? They're going to support the Chiefs. If you got a transient coming from Green Bay, they're going to support their Packers. You know, on top of not only being their home team, they've won titles. There's a certain sense of pride there. Got to understand the makeup of Los Angeles is different than probably any other city in the world because it's full of transients. And this is why you see all the diverse, again, fan bases that exist there. It's why they can flood SoFi Stadium when the Rams play there. But don't confuse the size of our base for the passion of our base. Those of us that stuck through the Georgia Frontier years, the trading away of Eric Dickerson, the phantom sack of Jim Everett, the movie to St. Louis, suffering through a Super Bowl that we were told that it wasn't our team anymore. And then 15 years of losing through Spagnuolo and Jeff Fisher, and then finally coming back home to Los Angeles. And now we got our Super Bowl title, and it looks like we've become the preeminent organization in the NFL. You don't understand who we are, Skip. You don't understand. We're a loyal fan base. We were abused, and yet we stuck with our team. Those are the greatest fans you could ever have. There are so much disorder and dysfunction within an organization. To stick with that team, can you name me a more stronger fan base than that? See, Cowboys fans have never had to go through that. Packers fans have never had to go through that. Kansas City fans have never gone go through that. And that's still not taking into consideration the LA culture and what it is. It was easy for Dr. Jerry Buss. Oh, no, let me take that back. I don't want to say it was easy for Dr. Jerry Buss, but when the Lakers started winning, could LA support a team? Yeah. In LA, you have to win. That's the bottom line, right? We proved that with LA's proven that with the Lakers. It's proven that with the Dodgers. I've been saying for years, since the Rams got back to Los Angeles 6 years ago, I said that there's no organization in the NFL that needs a Super Bowl title more than the Rams. Let's take for example, the Cincinnati Bengals, who the Rams just beat in the Super Bowl. Everybody kept saying, small market, they don't spend a lot of money, kind of a thing, right? The Bengals really need the Super Bowl. No, not really, because guess what? It's Cincinnati. It's Ohio, for crying out loud. That's their team. That's their legacy. And you don't have the same cultural factors in Cincinnati as you do in Los Angeles. Now, I've never been to Cincinnati. I can speak for what Los Angeles is, being born and raised there. Let me tell you something. Win, lose, or draw that Super Bowl, next year, Cincinnati fans are going to show up. Packers fans are going to show up. Kansas City fans are going to show up. But in LA, you got to win. No organization in the NFL needed a Super Bowl title more than Los Angeles to capture the hearts and minds of the next generation of young fans that can cheer for something that is declared to be a champion. 35 years they've been gone from Los Angeles. 35 years. That's 35 years of not raising you Rams fans and old fogies like me dying off, right? Those us old fogies that could quote the 70s and the teams of the 60s and the 50s and the 40s. We need to create that new fan base. That title will do that. Rams will sell out SoFi, assuming this economy doesn't fall apart, but that's a different conversation. But my point here is that, Skip, what more can you ask of us old fogies that were used and abused, never winning a title? You can't call us front runners as Rams fans. Can't do it. Right? You can't call us front runners. We stuck through them through two moves, through cultural divisions in Los Angeles. And here we are, the most loyal fans in the world of any organization, despite the abuse we received and the cultural mockery of Raiders fans that we got when the Raiders took over the town. Skip, do you get that? Has anybody ever gone into your Dallas town and won a Super Bowl and won the heart of the city? No, they haven't. You guys haven't faced that cultural crisis. But in Los Angeles, the Rams faced that. And yet, here we are, Super Bowl champs, looking like the preeminent organization in the league. And all the OG, all the original old fogies like me that stuck through them through all these turbulent times. This is for you guys. We are the best fan base in the world of all sports because of the endurance that we had to go through to show our loyalty. There's no other fan base that has been through this kind of really chaos over the past 35 years. What more could you ask for? Yes, we need to grow that fan base. Yes, we're small, but we stuck through them through thick and thin. We're not front runners. We're not traitors fans jumping on Super Bowl victories. And see, I've always said it. There's virtue in loyalty. There's virtue in loyalty. And those Los Angelenos back in the 80s that jumped off the Rams bandwagon to join the Raiders bandwagon. How's that 35 years of losing been for you, traitors fans? And now you're watching the Rams become the preeminent NFL team, the preeminent organization in the NFL. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. The Rams fans are not the worst fans in the league. Our loyalty, our badge of honor right in our heart. We wear it right here. We have it 35 years. This is ours. We are the best fan base in the NFL, Skip. So you can put that in your pipe and smoke it, buddy. This is Frank, signing off for Horns Up. Good night, everybody.
Hey!